Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan, and tonight I'm gonna play The Tick on Genesis. And lately on Saturday nights, I've usually been doing collection streams, but tonight I decided to do something a little different, and I know last week I kind of took a break from that too, but we'll get back to it next time. This is a game that I have meant to stream forever. It's really strange that I don't have a game stream from this game already on the channel, at least one. So I'm gonna go ahead and do it now, and I'm gonna play for just as long as I feel like. I don't know how far I'll get into the game. There's no way I beat it because this is a really long, monotonous beat 'em up that takes. I want to say when I've beaten it before, it's taken 3 or 4 hours because the levels are just so ridiculously lengthy. Hi, Thomas. Look, good to see you. He says, "Oh boy, another edition of Cap can't play." Yeah, but this one is not. As I say in the title there, unfortunately, I kind of can play this game. I say unfortunately because it just goes forever. It's like it never ends. It's preposterous. It's especially weird when you get to the kitchen part when you're trying to get the chair face. Because this is just the longest kitchen ever. It just keeps repeating. It's like you're on a loop in a kitchen. But anyway, I'm not going to talk too long before we get started. I will say I did a review of this game I think exactly 9,000 years ago when I did Tick Month, and this was back in my old apartment before I even moved into my first house. I think it was all the way back in like maybe 2010, 2011. Tick Month was the thing that led Dan and I to come up with Spawn Year, and not a lot of people watched those back then. If you go back and look at the comic reviews now, they've actually gotten hits since then. People have found them because there's not a lot of Tick material, of course, on YouTube, and there's a few things here and there that I missed. One was a game stream for this, besides just reviewing it, and one was the board game. I've never talked about that, which I recently rebought, and I have a nice copy of again, because it got crushed at some point in a move, and so I'm glad I got my hands on it again. But anyway, I digress. I say I can play this game. It's been a while, so we'll see if I crash and burn, or if we're just sitting here for a really long time until I get too tired to continue. But if you've not played this before, it does not have a good reputation. The Tick is on both Super Nintendo and Genesis. I grew up with the Genesis version and still prefer the sound of it to the Super Nintendo version. In certain ways, that game is superior, and there are certain sound effects that are different, and even some that are like missing on one over the other, and I forget what all the comparisons are now. But I've tried to play the Super Nintendo version. I actually had that cartridge for a while before I rebought the Genesis version, which I got again recently in complete in box, which I mentioned in my Genesis collection video a few weeks ago. And so that's very exciting that I have that again, and this is the only way I like to play it. But anyway, I'm the one person on the planet that kind of likes this game. I see all the flaws, it's got all kinds of problems, but I love how it represents the source material, and it's really fun that it's a blend of both the comics and the TV show. And as you heard with the play-in, and as you'll hear as I play, it has a lot of music, or at least some music from the show. It doesn't have a lot of music, period. I was looking at this earlier, and I think it's a total of 13 minutes without looping, which is maybe not all that unusual for a cartridge, but as long as this game goes, it will get kind of repetitive. So I'm glad the music is as good as it is, because I really like it, and I love the score from that show anyway. But let's go ahead and get started. So in order to have a chance at getting real far, and I don't know how long I actually really want to play this in one sitting, maybe I'll save my place and with a save state, because I'm emulating this tonight, and come back to it with a part 2 at some point. If I don't finish, which is almost completely unlikely. But anyway, the way I always play this is you put in all the way up to 7 lives, all the way to 6 continues, and all the way to 4 Arthurs, which is, I guess, kind of playing it on easy mode, but I don't know if it's possible to get to the end, or if very many people would be able to make it all the way to the end with the middle or lowest settings with those, just because there's so much game. And anyway, away we go. Thanks for watching. If you're looking at this live and after the fact as well, good to see everybody. We've got a few folks here in the comments already. Gravity is a harsh mistress, Robert. It's not cruel, it's harsh mistress. Robert says it's my destiny. That's absolutely right. Real quick, I just want to see what other folks are saying. Hayden Spring, I just got my first Tick comic. Oh, cool, congrats. I have a large collection of Tick. And as a lot of you guys know, I'm a giant Tick collector. It's one of my favorite things. One of the only Tick things I don't have is a Tick t-shirt. Can you believe that? I'm wearing Power Rangers today. I have a tattoo, but I do not, in fact, have a Tick t-shirt. He said it's the 2015 Free Comic Book Day issue. I found it at a pawn shop. That's awesome. That's really cool. I don't know if I have that one. There's a limited run of Free Comic Book Day issues every year, and I don't always get them. It's been a while since I've done that. But anyway, I said I wouldn't talk too long at the start, and I already have, and people have already left. So let's get into it. Here we go. A Night of a Million Zillion Ninjas. If you've only watched the cartoon show and not the comics, just give me a second. I'm going to drop this slightly. If the balance is bad, I always say this, but if the music is overpowering me, or if you can't hear the sound of the game at all, please let me know. I want to get that balance right so that everybody can hear this, but also can hear me. Okay, here goes. Yeah, see, I feel like I need to drop that even a little bit more. So, A Million Zillion Ninjas, everything you're seeing on the screen here is from the original Ben Edlund comic run, not from the TV show at all. And I am playing once again tonight with a 6-button Genesis controller, although I'll only be using 3 of the 6 said buttons. And here we go. The start of our Million Zillion Ninjas, and it does not skimp out on the ninjas. We took that very, very literally. So this is a very typical beat-em-up. There are not a lot of combinations of moves, as you'll see as we go through this. People really dislike this game for, again, lots of understandable reasons. I think there is a lot of charm to the characterization. Everybody is just really well adapted here. But it wears thin quickly if you're not just the biggest fan of this material. I stayed up one night when I was in high school at my dad's house. I started probably around the same time I'm starting tonight, like 11 o'clock, and I played it to completion, or very near completion. 1 second. Every time I click away, the game stops, but I've got to look at the comments here. Thomas Lowe, very techie menu sound effects. Yeah, that's true. Good call. Okay, so we get roof jumping, which is fun. Sorry, I forgot how I configured this. C is jump. And, you know, it would have been nice if somehow you could actually break part of the roof while you're jumping, but that would have been a tall order for 16-bit, so I understand why that's not here. But again, whoever programmed this does understand this character and the humor quite well, which is really nice. And I would be surprised if Ben Edlund... Oh, no, I already dropped off. Jeez. So whenever you fall off the roof... But you know what? I kind of wanted to fall off a couple of times on purpose anyway, just to show you guys these sections. Because if you're playing this really well, you never see them. And that's where some of the fun cameos are. So whenever you fall off a roof, you don't lose a life, I don't think. But you have to fight a hero or a villain. And the reason you have to fight a hero is because some of the heroes with the tick are antagonistic. And if you know what you're doing, you don't actually fight Clark Oppenheimer. You just go pick up the Otter Creekite. It's not Kryptonite. He's not Superman. The joke, of course, is that he is a parody, a knockoff Superman. And he gets very jealous of the Tick for taking his spotlight. Clark Oppenheimer, and I'm going to spend a lot of time probably just explaining Tick things to folks that are not familiar with it. But that character is only a fun little cameo in The Tick versus the Idea Men, which is the origin episode for the Tick. I always hesitate to call it the pilot because it's treated like a first episode, and it always shows up as the first episode on the lists, but this is the thing I've always wanted to ask Ben Edlund if I ever get to see him. Oh man, I keep dropping off the edge, which is weird. It's like the input's just not working sometimes when I'm jumping. But anyway, that episode, it always watches like the real first episode is... Hold on, you gotta time this right. And I'm not timing it right. Maybe I can't play this right now. And then you gotta jump. Yeah, my buttons are kind of set up wrong. Hold on. So yeah, you gotta punch him, or you gotta kick him and then jump. It's honestly probably not all that useful to ever punch in this game because of range, but it becomes so monotonous to only kick, I find myself doing it anyway. Chairface was here. Now, I don't know why Chairface was in this alley, but apparently he was. Or is it just that he wants you? Oh no, he wasn't here. He wants you. Because apparently he's Uncle Sam with a chair on his head. Come on. Well, at least you guys are getting to see the Running Man, who is a character, I think, that shows up again as a little cameo in one episode. But anyway, I'm jumping all over the place. The thing I started to say about the Tick vs. the Idea Men is it's played like a pilot, and it's always listed as the first episode, but it actually always looks to me, just because it's a little rough around the edges, that the Tick vs. Chairface must be the first episode they actually produced. And maybe they aired the other first, but I'm pretty sure they wrote and made that episode first. So the reason I'm hesitating here is I don't know why I keep dropping off the edge. And sometimes you have to jump to make the next thing, to like trigger it to come. So you'll jump forward and then kind of jump back. I got lucky there. And it's the pits. I think, dropped off of that before on accident, where it just doesn't trigger that you're at the end of the level, which is irritating. So I do appreciate that there's a little bit of variety to the levels, that you get the roof jumping bits, and then you get regular beat 'em up fighting sections. More music from the show. The cartoon show has a very jazzy score, which is how the Tick always sounds to some degree. The Amazon show gets real jazzy too. The Warburton show less so, but there's still some of that, certainly. More typical sitcom stuff in that, definitely. But yeah, the only variety you get with the ninjas is there's a few different colors, and they have different weapons. So you'll do ninjas for a really long time, and then at some point it becomes... I know there's clowns, and I know there's aliens that work for Thracker Zog, and I think there's even a fourth one somewhere in the middle, and I can't remember where. So if you're not familiar with Paul the Samurai, he was never in the cartoon show or any other iteration of the Tick, but he's one of the Tick's main allies in the Ben Edlund run. Oh, I started to say earlier, I would be surprised if Ben Edlund didn't consult on this at all, given how authentic and faithful it feels. So the gameplay is not great, as I said before. It's hit detection that takes a little bit of getting used to. And there's nothing especially inspired in this, except, like I said, some of the variety of levels and what they look like, I kind of appreciate. Like, you know, you start on a moving bus, which is cool. It's annoying, though, because if you're trying to figure out your buttons for the first time, you will invariably end up jumping off the bus. If you ever decide to play this, and I'm sure everybody watching this right now is like, I don't know why I would do that. But if you do, just make sure that you do a little trial run first, figure out where your jump button is, and then start over, because you will probably jump off the bus. Or just make sure that you're not pushing in any direction when you press jump, because that's what will throw you right off of it. But then, you know, you get to go on a roof here, of course, and you get to go on a clothesline later. There's a lot of fun variety in environments. And I will say, I don't think we ever really repeat an environment, and I appreciate that. That was the Human Bullet. Fire Me Boy. I just love all the cameos and all of the silly, unexpected stuff. We'll get Sewer Urchin later popping out of a manhole cover. A lot of these superhero beat-em-up games, you would get some cool kind of guest star characters, kind of team-up characters that would be either clear screen effects. You only have that with Arthur in this game. Speaking of that, I don't actually know how to get Arthur in the Genesis version. I don't know if you press all 3 buttons or what, because the Genesis controller doesn't have a select button. So we'll have to figure that out at some point. I actually don't remember how to get him. We'll want that at some point. But what I was going to say is a lot of those games will kind of skimp out on other characters because they can't figure out how to include them. And this being a comedy game, it's really easy to incorporate those characters as cameos. We maybe should have gone through the roll call screen at the beginning. I forgot about that, although I talk about it in my reviews, so from, again, 9,000 years ago exactly. So if you want to see that and see me talk about that, go look at that review. I think it's about 20, 25 minutes long. I spent a decent amount of time on that for what this is. And that thing is a million years old, but I've gotten back to it somewhat recently, and I think it holds up okay. I think I did an alright job with that. And I don't do a lot of polished, scripted reviews like that anymore. Because we've moved to Waste Your Time Volution. I might pause here in a second between levels so that I can read some comments. But yeah, this is the game, folks. I'm just punching guys. This can be kind of relaxing to me, because I just like the kind of mood of this game. So, you know, you put on a podcast or something and kind of sit back and enjoy the monotony. But what I started to say earlier is having the, this being a comedy kind of affords you more excuses to have, you know, fun cameos like that. And it was somewhat ahead of its time to try to get, you know, the Tick voice in here. There were a few games here and there that would do that, but it was always a novelty when you got that. I always got excited about that when I was a kid with games like Bubsy, which is another game that I like that no one else on the planet does. I have turned on that one a little bit though, and this one not as much. But like I said, I recognize all the flaws. I don't even think at this point I would call this a good game. And I'm going to complain about lots of things. But I think it exists for like 5 people, and I'm one of them. And so I still appreciate that. Oh, I was going to pause between levels. Let me read some of these comments. There's just a few. Darren Root Spoon. Yes, indeed. It's obligatory, but it's nice that he says it. Hayden Spring, I went to Half Price Books, found the 2nd and 3rd Invincible compendiums. I don't own any of that book, besides the Tick crossover that was one of the, or I'm sorry, the Tick number 100. I think. Oh, Hot Soup likes Bubsy. Hot Soup, I know you live kind of close. We should get together and play Bubsy. That would be such a silly thing for us to do. Thomas Lowe, my cousin, has the Batman Returns game, and the game is sometimes hard to play because of how dark it looks. Yeah, which version? Because the Genesis game, or I'm sorry, the Super Nintendo Batman Returns is quite good. One of those is dreadful. I think it's Sega CD. It's pretty bad, although it's got some cool stuff in its soundtrack. Wondering how long it'll take before I'm really fading. I started so late tonight. I say that. I usually don't start much before 11 on a Sunday. Things I'm doing with my family. So I try to sneak in a collection stream or something. Oh, man. I got knocked over. I was doing so well. And yeah, this is just a lot of muscle memory. The first time you play this, it will drive you nuts because of how many times you'll get hit and knocked down, and you'll have to go find some Otter Creekite. There are a surprising number, though, of characters that you get to fight when you fall off, and there's lots of fun gimmicks with them. There's almost a puzzle element in figuring out how to defeat some of them, because it's not usually just punch and kick your way out of it. But yeah, Otter Creekite, Clark Oppenheimer, you can just punch all day long, and you can't beat him until you go get the Otter Creekite. And there's some kind of gimmick. Here's that clothesline I was telling you about, and this is right out of the comic, actually. It's just really cool how faithful this is. You'll notice that the moon, is prominently featured in the background, which is foreshadowing for Chairface writing his name in it, which is one of the most famous moments in the Tick, and happens very, very early. And like I said, I think that's the first episode they made, probably, and is right out of the Edlin run, but that will happen in this game, too. And so it's kind of fun. We start at the Tick's origin, way. I sort of wish this opened with a recreation of the full-page spread that you get on page 1 of the Edlin comic, where the Tick is in a insane asylum and he breaks out, and then he goes to the city. It may have been that seemed like a bridge too far for a kid's game, even though we're doing so much comic book stuff with this. And I talked about this when I got that game, but it is really weird that it was rated MA-13. And I still think probably just because of the Chainsaw Vigilante, who is a comic book character that's not in any other adaptation. And nothing else. I mean, I can't think of why else it would be rated anything but E for everyone. I got another Arthur. I haven't felt the need to use that yet, so I haven't tried. But I might do it here in a little bit, just to make sure we know how. But anyway, with that MA-13 rating, you'd think that they could get the Insane Asylum bit in here. And if you're thinking, well, this game doesn't have any, like, quote-unquote cutscenes, which during this time, back in the day, would usually consist of kind of rudimentary looking, like, motion comics, or comics that just have a panel that pops up and it comes up in pieces where, like, it's moving a little bit, and then you get the dialogue. We did that in the Maximum Carnage game, but this game does do it at the very end. Well, and I guess you've got this is Oedipus, who's also a character that's not in the show, and is one of the funniest jokes, I think. She's Electra, but she's named Oedipus, which makes no sense because she's a girl, but it's hilarious. Because the Tick was a straight-up Frank Miller parody, which is why it's ninjas. And so I like that all that Frank Miller stuff is in this game. But anyway, I guess you kind of have that, the panel thing, or the kind of cheap cutscene thing, or early rudimentary cutscene thing, I should say. Why I didn't get hurt very long. With the titles of the levels, and I like that they have titles. That's fun. I don't know if any of that art is straight out of the comics, but there is one right at the very end, and I'm taking forever to make this point. But what I was going to say is, sorry, I'm already a little bit tired getting into this, trying to make it an interesting stream, but there is a panel right out of the book that's really kind of lame right at the end, where it's like, oh, you win. Here's a picture of, and I talked about this when I reviewed it, of the Tick and Arthur in the sidecar from the comics. I'm like, really? That's all you get? All right. In the words of Handy from the Tick versus Arthur's bank account, read a book. Oh my god. Darren Root, it kind of explains Tick as a character. Do you mean the Insane Asylum thing? Yeah, and I've always loved how it's an explanation without being any explanation whatsoever. He seems kind of nuts, but then there's no explanation for where he comes from. He's not on any kind of books, and he's clueless about his own background, and he thinks his costume is his real body. And apparently, Van Edlin is still intending, if he can get a fourth Tick show made. So it would be another iteration. Like, he doesn't want to, at this point, try to continue the Amazon show. He'll do a totally different version. If it can ever get picked up again, he wants to finally do the Tick's origin, which was supposed to happen in the Amazon show. And this is as good a place to mention this as any, but recently, one of our viewers and another live stream YouTuber, Blue Dragon 5, met Ben Edlin at a convention, and he was nice enough to send me a message and ask me some questions to ask Ben Edlin, and he asked them, and I got answers, which is cool. I hope at some point I still get to meet him. But one of them was there ever any intention on making a Tick Season 4, and why didn't that happen? And he said they wanted to do that because I had always heard that they just ran out of ideas and didn't want to make a bad season. But Edlin claims, and I had never heard this before, but it makes sense, that the toys weren't selling well, and that was always the way in the 90s. And the show was appealing more to adults than children. So they just weren't getting enough return on their investment because the toys weren't selling. And that's why, sadly, you never got a third wave, and you never got Shareface Chippendale, or any number of characters I would have liked to have seen. But another question I asked was about the Amazon show. And that's where that information I just mentioned came from. That he does intend still to do a Tick origin, which is the thing I didn't think I ever wanted, and then I was so fascinated by it in that show, and by all the clues we were getting to the Tick as somehow a figment of Arthur's imagination, even though he was physically there. Like, somehow he seemed to be manifested from Arthur's imagination. In spring, I saw Transformers 1 last night. I saw it today, and we're going to review it tomorrow night. Spoilers, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'm excited to talk about it tomorrow. That one will just be me and Austin. It's a movie I had no intention on seeing. Like a lot of people, I thought it looked terrible, and from the previews, I don't think they advertised that movie right at all, because it's not whatsoever what that looked like. They just showed comedy bits that seemed obnoxious and like it was just, a complete farce. And it is not that. That kind of comedy is present in it, but it's much more well integrated than I would have expected. And it's a real story, and it's actually about some things. And it's just the right way to do a prequel. From what turns into a really interesting period with Cybertron, even before the Cybertronian Civil War, and it's really fun. And I'm just glad I got to take my kids to that, and that Mikey, who he's 6 and he adores Transformers, is just the absolute right age for that. And it's got some edginess in it, too. But, never goes too far. It's just what kids' movies should be like. I guess I'm just reviewing this now. We'll talk about this tomorrow. I don't want to give anything major away about the story, of course, but... Boy, it's been a really good year for movies, especially when you compare to the last 4. Goodness. So, yeah, anybody else sick of everything you're seeing by now? This music's gonna go on forever. Look at the attention to detail, though. One of the lights in the background is out. That's cool. No, I think all this art is directly out of the Edlin comics. So I think you might see... Yeah, there he is. Sewer Urchin, who's got a really great episode in the cartoon show. It's fun because if you just get on one side of this, the ninjas will have really bad AI and they'll just run right into the manhole cover and die. One really unfortunate thing about the programming with this, and I don't know if it's a mistake or it's more likely just being cheap and limited with samples, it is clearly Townsend Coleman's voice when he gets hit, which is great. I really appreciate not just Spoon, but that you actually do hear his voice when he gets hit. But then all the ninjas also make that same sound when they get hit. Actually, it must be a glitch because they don't usually make a sound. It's just when they get hit by this manhole cover. Isn't that goofy? Did you guys hear that? It's so strange. And that was Captain Fleming, I think? Unless that was also supposed to be the Human Bullet and he was just coming from this, like, top down, but I don't think it is. These guys with the big swords look more like the putties in the Super Nintendo Power Rangers game, not beat 'em up. That game is much harder than this and has more platforming elements. It's infinitely a better game. One thing I will complain about with this game is I wish the sprites were a little bigger. With beat 'em ups, I prefer thicker sprites. I guess I should have tried Arthur by now. Oh, it does work. There we go. So it is the 3 buttons. Well, at least we know how everything works. But yeah, you gotta love the personality. The Tick will, if you're pushing forward at the end of 3 punches, he'll flick guys over, which is very in character. And then you get all the ballet moves when he's jumping. Kind of learn how to make that happen on purpose. Hi, RJ Godzilla. Good to see you, man. Like I said at the beginning, I can't believe I've never done this on stream. But yeah, it's just an absolute marathon to finish it. And there's no way we're going to sit here and do the whole thing. It's also kind of ridiculous that I'm doing this after another 12-hour Smallville marathon from the day before. There's Thracker Zog graffiti. I don't know why he has graffiti. I also don't know really why he has minions. Because in the show, Thracker Zog's kind of just on his own. He wants to build an army of evil clones, but like he doesn't have a bunch of people working for him. Maybe he does, but he hasn't, brought them over with his portal device. It never occurred to me that Thracker Zog might be a little bit of a Ninja Turtles joke with Krang. I wonder about that. Which is funny because Ninja Turtles itself is also a Frank Miller parody. But, like, Turtles predates the Tick, at least cartoon show-wise, by almost 10, or, 84, yeah, almost 10 years. Or maybe it is about 10 years. No, sorry, the comics are 84, the series is 87, and the Tick starts in, 94? So, yeah, not quite that long. But obviously long enough that he could have parodied Turtles things. So yeah, it's fun that there's stuff that's... Here, we'll use Arthur again, just for the heck of it. You get those all back when you do a continue. I do think the colors and all the details are pretty nice in this game. Again, it's not brilliant or anything, but there's a sufficient amount of detail in the artwork. And again, it looks like that show and those comics. I wonder if there's anything else like that that is a total blend of cartoon material with its source material, be it comics or whatever else it is. Because this must have really confused... I'm sure I made this point in that review. This must have really confused fans that had only watched the show, which would have been most of them. Because you gotta remember the Tick comics were not readily available. Yeah, okay, so here's the glitch. If you hit one of these guys when the manhole cover is open, they make the same sound the Tick does when he gets hit. Even if it's not the manhole cover that's doing it. It's so weird. Yeah, I haven't done much of that yet. Just slaying the guys back and forth. And the problem with this, of course, is there's a lot of fun novelty in the first, 5-10 minutes, and then you've kind of seen everything, at least with, the Tick sprite work and what he does. And that's going to be true of all of these things because they're so limited, but then you've got to get a lot more variety in the game itself. And like I said, there's enough variety in backgrounds and stuff. I said we don't repeat locales too much. Obviously, we do with, like, city streets, I guess, and with the roof jumping. But they're a little varied. But the problem is just that the levels go on so long. Yeah, Darren Root, that is the idea with Rakazog. He says this in his game that he wants clones, but each one has something along with him. Yeah, my point is, he doesn't really have like a big army he moves over like Krang. So it's weird when you just see all these aliens in this game that will take over for the ninjas. Okay, apologies, guys. I need a quick break. I'll be right back. And again, I don't know how long I'm going to stream tonight. I'm already at, 40 minutes? I don't know. I started... like I said, I always start pretty late on Sunday, but I'm a little out of it already. I'm going to take a quick break and come right back, and then I'll go for, at least another 20 or 30 minutes. But maybe longer. We might just pause this at about an hour and do a part 2, but I'll be right back. Hi everybody, I'm back. So a lot of games from this period, the strategy was make the levels ridiculously difficult, very often to an absurd degree, so that you had to perfect your game and know everything that was coming just through brute memorization and repetition, and that made the game longer, so that you would feel like you got a more fulfilling experience because of how long it took. Like, you were still thinking about it in terms of like hours of play, but it wasn't like the start to finish. If you know what you're doing, it's really hard, so you have to do it over and over again. So it might take 15, 20, 30 hours to beat a game that if you were brilliant at it would take half an hour. But it was also very often, especially with third-party games, you would keep renting them. The strategy for a game like this is stretch out the levels beyond absurdity, so it's not too difficult to play. It just actually takes 4 or 5 hours to get through it, because there's too much game. You saw that more with beat 'em ups than any other genre, but this game is one of the worst offenders of it. Or at it. Might as well. I've only got 2 lives left, so I'm gonna need to use them up at some point. It feels like vacation hours. You gotta make sure you use them or you'll lose them. Let me make sure I've got my comments up here. Tom Atkins, what's your favorite scary game? I gotta give that some thought because I've not played enough horror games. I want to do more of that kind of thing. Something great is coming to me. I've tried some things that I just didn't play more than like an hour or two. So like Dead Space looked really interesting, and I played like an hour or two when at one point I borrowed from GameStop when I worked there a really long time ago. But I didn't get very far, so I can't really speak to it too much. But I know that's supposed to be a really scary survival horror kind of isolation sort of game. Speaking of that, I've also heard really good things about Alien Isolation. I've not played enough of that. I guess my go-to is some like rail shooters like House of the Dead, but like it's not really scary, it's more funny horror. I get wants to be scary initially, but that's part of the charm of it, is kind of fails at that. Especially because of voice acting and stuff. Thomas Low, depth perception is sometimes a problem with beat-em-up games. Yeah, especially one like this where the hit detection is kind of odd. I don't want to say off because it's consistent, but it's one of those games, I don't even know how to describe it, but where like the hitbox is kind of odd, and you gotta hit like dead center, so you can stand in front of the guys that you're fighting and miss each other completely. Just be kind of crisscross paths. This is Oedipus again, which is odd because I think she's the last one that we had. It does all run together at some point. It's just kind of crazy to think that at one point when I was like 17 or 18 years old, I stayed up all night and played this. And I wasn't even like listening to anything else with it. I was just fully immersing myself in the repetitious world of this game. See, we had an okay crowd at the start of this. Folks have already left. I'm sure part of that's because it's late and they're going to bed, and part of it is, oh yeah, this is all you get, huh? I don't blame anybody. but I'm here to show you more of this than you'd ever want to know and to answer your many and varied and layered tick questions. I am sure the 4 or 5 people hanging out right now. The back-to-back thing is not great. You can't jump while you have a partner. I guess it's nice that you can hit guys from front and back. I'm glad it doesn't last too long, because you're a lot slower, and you don't have any combinations or special moves or anything. Hi, Andrew. How are you? I'm playing a game that no one likes. That you have to be oddly obsessed with a character that very few people know anything about to really appreciate. Okay, I forget this guy's name, but he's also just comic book and was never in the show. I don't like the little mini bosses in this game. Mini bosses are bosses. It's the kind of thing where you hit them once and then you gotta leap out of the way. Because right away they're like Sonic, where they'll flash for, or they don't even flash, you just can't keep hitting them. And it doesn't even let you keep hitting him, but it doesn't count. Like, you have to jump out of the way or he'll just immediately come at you after you've hit him. So it's awkward. You can't chain anything together, and he gets a lot of cheap hits because of that. You gotta do a lot of, there's a lot of guerrilla fighting, you know. You gotta hit him once and jump out of the way. I think we've gotten a decent amount of levels down with the number of characters we've wasted with going through a whole continue so far. It helps that I didn't really waste a single life on falling off a building or anything. Can you Arthur him? No, you can't. It's a verb now. Hi, Jareth. I'm fighting a ninja guy. I can't remember his name. We'll get the district manager later. I remember that. Takes all about mundane humor. Okay, I've already lost 2 guys to him. This sucks. And you don't have any life bar or anything for him, so there's no telling how many times you have to hit him. And there's no special thing that you have to do with this. There's not really a gimmick with the bosses like there is with the heroes that you fight after you fall off of a roof. God, this takes forever. This is obnoxious. See, I see why people hate this game. Stop it! I'm not even 100% sure that there's a pattern. Like, when does he do that jump sweep? Yeah, and I mean, the AI in this game is really random. You see that? Like, he's just jumping all over the place. No rhyme or reason to anything. BioShock I've not played, but I keep meaning to. And there's a pretty inexpensive collection on PS4 that I have almost pulled the trigger on. People have told me to play BioShock for years. And I've had a few different people actually threaten to do requests for it back when I was actually taking paid requests for video games, which I don't do now because I just don't have the time. I would say I'd like to occasionally get back to one of those, but... So yeah, this is the level where we'll get to the district manager. At least he's somewhere in this carnival, this ninja-themed carnival. Now we got green ones. I don't think we had those before. I mentioned this on other Genesis streams, because I play a lot of games from this period, but if you are not already aware of it, there are Sega licensed USB controllers like this one that are wonderful, that are really authentic to the original. Whoa, that's weird. I did not even press all 3 buttons. What is happening? I mean, not a bad time to do it, I guess, but yeah, momentarily, I completely lost control. It's like, because I picked the controller up and showed it to you, that happened. I don't even understand that. But anyway, this controller, I think, came with the Genesis Mini 2, but I think you can also buy one really similar or the same one by itself. And I also have a really nice Saturn one. And like I said, they are Sega brand. And so it's really easy now to emulate Genesis games on a PC, or getting one of the Genesis Minis. They're a little more expensive now, but you can sometimes get your hands on one and use like an actual Genesis controller. And play other kinds of things that aren't from Genesis, if you just really like the feel of these. I still, and I've talked about this before, but I still like what the 3-button feels like a little bit better in my hand. I know I'm in the minority on that, or I think I am. But this just happened to be sitting here, and I was too lazy to go grab the other one, because there's USB 3-button controllers. At least one, if not 2. I'm pretty sure I have 2, but I can't remember if I ordered it separately or if they both came with it, for the Genesis Mini 1. I have hacked my Genesis Mini. Maybe I hacked both of them. I think I did. And I've got the tick on that, so I actually could have played this tonight on that, but starting as late as I did, it was kind of easier to just emulate right onto the machine. Because I have to set up another TV when I do that. And get an extra HDMI cord coming out of an adapter that I've got. But this is all inside baseball and not remotely interesting. I did not do that on purpose. I don't know why that keeps happening. You're supposed to press 3 buttons, or unless the idea is you only have to press A and B. I don't know. I guess I gotta be careful about pressing multiple buttons together. But again, maybe not the worst time to do that. It's like the game knows when I should want to do that. Jareth. Teddy says, you're a ticked. I'm being a ticked. Or I'm a ticking. I'm a ticking ninjas. Good to see you, Teddy. Apologies that it took so long to get your super chat the other night. I have no good excuses. Jareth says, I actually found one of those USB controllers at my auction recently. I got it for $5. Explain that. Is it an online auction, or did you go to an actual local auction? So I gotta tell you, one of the things in my life that I miss the most, that I'm most massively nostalgic for, is live auctions. I went to a ton of those in Arkansas when I was a kid, because my dad and I were in the junk business, and they were everywhere. And Dad actually worked some auctions, for some auction houses. And we're not talking about like car auctions or like farm equipment auctions, things like that. We're talking about just auctions that would sell any kind of thing. A lot of collectibles, a lot of furniture. And I have some cool stuff in my collection that I bought at auctions years and years ago. And there's just not a lot of that kind of thing around here. We have lots of really good flea markets here. And I know there are auctions, but they're few and far between, and I've still just not found one that looked close enough to those that I want to try. But yeah, I really miss going to auctions. There was a time in my life I kicked around being an auctioneer because I'm a decent public speaker and I can talk very fast. And it would be fun just to go to auction school. Because to be an auctioneer, you actually have to go to school, to an auction school, to learn like the cadence, the rhythm of how to speak, and the ins and outs of just how to get in front of people and do that job. Thomas Lowe, clearly this is supposed to be like a kind of Chinatown, but reconfigured into a silly theme park. Jareth goes to a live auction where he was able to get this controller. They also do it online. It's 5 minutes from my house. That's cool. Do you mind me asking what state or like a larger city you live close to, Jareth? Just curious. There's more of that in the Midwest than there is up north, but the further south you go, the more of that kind of thing you're gonna find. Yeah, a lot of my strategy in this game, if I have one, is kick some guys and run away so you don't get smacked back. But yeah, there is no depth to this whatsoever. I think you can get hit while Arthur is still flying toward everyone. Looks kind of weird for a clear screen move. I don't think I've had it happen yet, but it looks like you could. I also always wondered if this game is kind of trolling you, or like part of the joke is how just ridiculously long it is. It doesn't seem outside of the realm of possibility that a tick game would try to like Andy Kaufman you. We're right at an hour. I'm trying to decide if I want to go any further. I'm getting really tired, getting kind of out of it. And this is just like such a monotonous game. It might be cool to do this in pieces. I'm just gonna check this real quick and make sure that I've got a way to save state this. Yes, I do. Save state slot 0. Hopefully that actually works. There might be a level code for this. I'm not sure, but yeah, I think I'm just going to cap this out at the hour. Apologies if you just came in and you wanted to hang out for a bit, but I need to go ahead and get to bed, I think. But I thought I would just hang out for at least an hour, and I did that. So I'm going to bid you farewell for right now, and I'll come back and do a part 2 at some point for this. It's probably better for everyone if we do this in chunks, at least a couple, 3. But anyway, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for hanging out. And I will be back tomorrow night. Again, late. It's going to be after 10 o'clock. But I'm going to do a How We Felt About on Transformers 1 with Austin. And lots more fun things coming at you this week. Oh, Jareth says he's even made he's even made money at the auction. He says he made over $200 there. That's awesome. Very cool. He's in Florida. Okay, cool. Yeah, I have heard that there are some auctions in Florida. And people are coming in now just as I'm leaving. Apologies that this is a bit of a shorter one tonight, relatively. But I'll do more of this down the road. Thanks for watching, guys. See you again soon. Bye, everybody.